right, welcome back to K&L Sports Huddle. I am your host, Kage Kiplinger, joined as always by my co-host, Logan Hubert. We got a great show for you today, a little bit slow as far as sporting events, so we got some really cool, unique discussions to give you guys for this week. How we doing, Logan? We met up this weekend for our buddy's bachelor party. How things go down?
Oh yeah, it came and went. We're both alive and well, so I'd say that was a success. So
Yeah, hitting up a bunch of bars, seeing people lose money at casinos. A lot of fun, a lot of fun.
yeah,
Before we get to the miss the cut, I do want to, most people don't watch all of this to the very end, so I did want to tease next week's episode. We will be starting an 8-week endeavor in previewing the NFL divisions one by one, starting with the AFC East next week. So if we got any Bills, Jets, Dolphins, or Patriots fans out there, definitely tune in next week. We're going to be breaking down each team, biggest storylines coming into this season. We're going to be predicting how the standings are going to play out for each division, as well as our over/under season win totals, what we predict as far as that. And then we'll see if Logan gives us some good fantasy football advice. Any players within each division that to really look out for. But let's get to what missed the cut for this week. I did want to start. We just got some news today. Some gamers out there I know. EA Sports just announced a return to college basketball, targeting a 2028 release. Super exciting stuff. Definitely due in large part to the success of their college football game last year, as it returns this year. Looking forward to that. But we haven't had a college basketball game in over 15 years. So it'll be really interesting to see the jump in what this will look like compared to the previous game, which was NCAA basketball 10. So really cool there. In football, we do have the Dolphins trading Jalen Ramsey to the Pittsburgh Steelers for Minkah Fitzpatrick. I know their tight end Jonnu Smith was also involved in that trade. And a blockbuster swap of all pro defensive backs. Apparently, the Pittsburgh Steelers think corner is a little bit more important than safety, so they're basically just swapping one great DB for another. In baseball, the Cincinnati Reds Chase Burns. Reds have had some pretty good pitching lately with their new young arm and Chase Burns. He struck out the first 5 Yankee batters in his MLB debut. Had some sick movement on that slider that he has, and his 100 looked faster than most pitchers' 100. And then they followed it up with Nick Martinez taking a no-hit bid into the 9th inning in a win over the Padres. Couldn't close it out, but they got the dub. In basketball, we are getting a flurry of Shams Charania breaking news. Free agency just broke out in the NBA. But first off, we do have LeBron picking up his $52.6 million player option to remain in LA for at least one more season. We'll see. He definitely gave the LA front office an ultimatum, build me a championship team. But if I were him, I wouldn't have picked up that much. I wouldn't have picked the player option up. I would have tried to re-sign for a pay cut. That's what the top guys in the history of sports have done. I think Tom Brady always taking pay cuts throughout his career. If he really wanted a championship, I think he would have taken less money. But Kyrie Irving will sign a reported 3-year, $119 million extension with the Dallas Mavericks after declining his player option. He will miss a big chunk of this next season still with that injury, but hopefully when he comes back and the signing or the draft of Cooper Flagg, we'll see some good things out of Dallas Mavericks. So finally, I did want to talk about the Boston Celtics, who are cleaning house. They trade away Drew Holiday to the Portland Trailblazers and Kristaps Porzingis to the Atlanta Hawks as they look to lighten the load on their salary. They're even hearing offers for Jaylen Brown and Derek White. So it'll be interesting as we continue to get news through this free agency period if anything happens with those two guys and they look to restock, rebuild around Jason Tatum. Any quick thoughts about those topics there, Logan?
yeah. I'll probably play the college basketball game. Big differences though. NCAA 14 and college football. That was like many sports fans regarded that as one of the best video games of all time,
Yes.
and that was the last one. So like the hype for the new college football game to come out was huge. For the basketball ones, it's more just a nostalgic thing. Like I people will get excited, but there won't be near as hype, and I don't know if it'll last as long just because I think it's purely a nostalgic thing. Like, people still love the college football game now,
Right.
but I mean, that was 15 years ago. They might do something innovative with it and change the college game completely. So if they do that, then maybe
Well,
I'll
we,
be
we never
wrong.
had a career mode with
No,
that game back in the day.
no.
It's that
Mhm.
old.
Yeah,
So it'll be the first time we ever see a college basketball like road to glory type of mode carried
yeah.
over into basketball.
Mentioning the Reds, I believe the NL Central is looking like a bloodbath. It's the only division with 4 teams over 500. That is intriguing.
Hmm.
Cubs' lead has shrunk a little bit, but they're still playing pretty well, so likely to keep it, but who knows at this point. And yeah, I would be shocked if Jaylen Brown, Derek White, I could really see a team overpaying for him. Derek White's
Oh
really
yeah.
good, but I could see a team overpaying for him. But I mean, I know the Celtics are unloading these guys for 2 reasons. One, obviously, this next upcoming year is like a reset year with Tatum out. But two, I mean, they were in financial hell. Like, they needed to do something. There's no way they could pay all those guys. But I mean, they got to have at least some competent players when Tatum comes back. So I'd be shocked if they unloaded either of those guys, especially Brown, because Brown was like the highest, biggest contract in NBA history just like
Right.
a year ago. So.
So good stuff there. Let's get into real quickly about the NBA draft that happened last week. Concluded, obviously, Cooper Flagg going #1 to Dallas. We knew this outcome was going to happen. It was a done deal. There was a little voice in the back of my head that was like, okay, it's Nico Harrison. So let's watch anyway and see if something crazy happens. um, with this drafting of Cooper Flagg, are the Mavs a contender? The Western Conference right now is loading up and looking very reminiscent, getting to that point of what it looked like back in the 2000s. Right now, we've got the Thunder as defending champs and are only going to get better with their young core. The Rockets just added Kevin Durant. The Lakers are going to have their first full season with Luka Doncic. Timberwolves, with Anthony Edwards growing between season to season, going back to back Western Conference Finals. Obviously, the Mavericks just getting Cooper Flagg. The Spurs, another Wemby jump maybe from last season to this season, and then also adding Dylan Harper to the roster. And then that's
Nuggets.
I
Did
mean,
you say Nuggets?
well, so I was going to get to the Nuggets next. Should they be worried, especially after their general manager made that comment about that he doesn't want to get to that point where he may have to trade Jokic. I don't know why he would even bring that up, but just looking at the
They
Western Conference as a whole, what are we looking at with the Mavs?
Well, they did just a few minutes ago make a decent trade, sending Michael Porter Jr. and the first round 2032 pick for Cam Johnson of the Brooklyn Nets, and I think that could work out really well for them. But so looking at the Mavericks roster, Kyrie is supposed to come back January, February ish. That's the timeline. But I mean, they still got all kinds of pieces. I mean, obviously Klay Thompson's getting old, but veteran presence can still hit threes. You like that? AD, when healthy, a top 10 player in the league. If you can get 2/3, get him to play 2/3 of the year, that's a win, and he'll contribute in those 2/3 games. But I mean, they have Flag now, Gafford and Lively. They're not going to be. Hopefully, they won't be hurt again because those are two really good big guys. Huge if, but if that whole team remains healthy and Kyrie gets back come playoff time, that's absolutely a title contender in my opinion. Only problem is that's a huge if, and I'm not counting on that happening. Um, I mean, I think Cooper Flagg's league ready. Like, he was in there bullying guys last year in the Team USA practices. So
Right.
I mean, he's just a dude who's ready for the NBA. The only thing I will say is I'm not a Mavericks fan, but when Nico Harrison said a couple days ago that the fans are now starting to see the vision of what he had, I don't know if I ever wanted to punch another guy so bad. That's so he's either claiming the NBA is rigged, or he thinks the fans are just idiots. He thinks they're dumbasses because How do you get the? How did you know you were going to get the number one pick?
He's acting like it was all part of his master plan, and he just
yeah,
lucked into that pick. If there wasn't any tampering, that was just a
yeah,
complete stroke of luck, and now it's all part of Nico Harrison's larger plan to bring Cooper Flagg to Dallas.
yeah. I don't.
I mean, when you're looking at the Mavericks next year, you've got a potential lineup once Kyrie comes back of Kyrie, Klay Thompson, Cooper Flagg, Anthony Davis, and likely Derek Lively at the five. Um, should be like a top 5 front court, I would say, in this league, and it'll be interesting to see how Cooper Flagg adjusts to the NBA game. You say he's totally NBA ready. I agree. It'll be fascinating to watch him, especially like we said last week, in a good situation, in a good organization, rather than most guys who have to come in and clean up what's a dysfunctional organization. But this is a great spot for Cooper. One thing that I took away from this draft, there was a trade that happened with the New Orleans Pelicans when they traded away their unprotected 2026 first round pick to the Atlanta Hawks to move up from 23rd to 13th in the first round. And then they drafted Derek Queen out of Maryland. I don't know what the Pelicans were doing here. It's highly, highly probable that New Orleans is going to be a really, really bad team this year. There's just a high probability. You never know what's going to happen with Zion. He's got this whole other off the court situation going on as well. That pick could be the most valuable pick in next year's draft. It's very much determined by their record as well as the Milwaukee Bucks record next year. And it's between the two, whichever one is most favorable, that will be the higher pick. If the Bucks end up trading Giannis, something happens to Giannis, and he goes elsewhere, they automatically have to be in position to be the worst team in the league, the Milwaukee Bucks, and that pick becomes so valuable. That could be DeBonsa from BYU, who's ultimately probably going to be the number one pick in the draft next year. I don't know what they're doing here. Why they had to move up 10 spots just to get Derek Queen, which is just almost like another Zion anyway. But from the Hawks' point of view, they've moved off plenty of salaries. They've added Kristaps Porzingis and potentially have the top picks next year in AJ DeBonsa. So it's starting to seem like the Hawks are making pretty decent moves to build this roster.
Yeah, this is no disrespect to Queen, because I think Queen has a chance to be really good. There are times in the last few weeks where he was like projected top 10 pick, and then lately I don't know what the reasons were. He kind of fell to the bottom of the lottery. But you're absolutely right about this could be a really good pick. There's a high chance this is going to be a really high pick next year. The only, I will say though, I'm kind of comparing this to last year, and this is more me ranting about last year's draft. So, do you recall the Timberwolves were in the Western Conference Finals, and they the previous year, and they were picking in the 20s, obviously, and they traded up to the 8th pick to select Rob Dillingham, giving up a first round pick in 2031. Everyone was calling that trade, "Oh my gosh, that's the best trade I've ever seen." Oh my gosh, when I was like, "Oh, the Timberwolves are in win now mode," but I was thinking, I mean, you're jumping from 20 something to 8th. They're giving up the first round pick. Who know Anthony Edwards will be about 30 by then. He might not even be on your team anymore. Rob Dillingham, good college player, never indicated that he's going to be a star, but people were claiming it was such a good trade. Now, compared to this year, Pelicans move up from 20 something to 13th, give up a first round pick. People are claiming it's a horrible trade, which I understand. But it's just, to me, it's just more interesting how I guarantee if like the Pelicans or the Timberwolves, if you change the Timberwolves to the Pelicans, I guess last
in terms
year,
of how they finished.
Yeah. I mean, I just think it was because it was the Timberwolves. since they just made the Western Conference Finals, people just assumed, oh, that's a good organization. That's a good trade. They know what they're doing. Pelicans trade up. They're a dysfunctional organization. They don't know what they're doing, even though it's almost the same exact trade. So I'm not going to it's easy to criticize now, but because I mean Rob Dillingham, I think he will have he'll play more this coming year, so maybe he will be worth that pick. But I mean, last year he didn't indicate anything that he was worth trading up 14 spots for giving up a future. So it's easy to criticize now, but I'm not going to say it was the worst move ever yet, because there is a chance that Queen could make it worth it. And I mean, the Pelicans are like a worse version of the Mavericks to me, where if they stay healthy, they could be, I won't say title contender, but they could be a second round exit, which pretty good for that organization. Problem is, I don't think they will stay healthy, but I mean, Zion has proven when he does play, he can be like one of the most efficient guys in the league. It's just he doesn't play very often, and it's really frustrating. But we'll see. I hope Derek Queen does well. He was fun to watch in both high school and at Maryland. So, but he is going to a dysfunctional organization. So, good luck to him.
Huge topic around sports, especially in the NBA, is about ring culture. Thought we'd have a decent talk about that. LeBron, it all sprung up because of LeBron. He recently criticized the NBA's ring culture on the Mind the Game podcast, arguing that a player's individual greatness shouldn't be solely defined by the number of championships they win, believing that the obsession with rings as the ultimate measure of success overlooks other significant contributions and accomplishments that players have. He's quoted as saying, "I don't know why it's discussed so much in our sport and why it's the end-all, be-all of everything." As he spoke to Steve Nash on the Mind the Game podcast, he listed off players like Allen Iverson, Charles Barkley, and even Steve Nash, who he was talking to, who, despite not winning championships, are all still considered legends and had a major impact on the game, which I agree with. For me, I may be different from most people, but when comparing players as if to rank them all time, I myself personally, I don't really look at championships. You know me, growing up, I was always making lists, right? In my notebook, it was just constantly ranking players and teams and just being a nerd about sports. Anytime I would be looking at a player's, you know, basketball reference page, baseball reference page, I wasn't really looking at championships. And that just may be the basketball or baseball background in me, where stats are pretty much everything. And you can never look at a player like Mike Trout and think he's not one of the greatest players of all time, even though he's never won a playoff series. In basketball, I'm looking at per game stats, all NBA selections, all-star selections, MVPs, scoring, rebound, assist titles. How many years was your peak? For me, I mean, name the 2 athletes in major American sports in the last 50 years who have 7 rings. Can you name the 2?
Robert Horry.
you hit the punchline, definitely, but Tom Brady and Robert Horry. And is Robert Horry the best NBA player in the last 50 years? No. Now, if you there was a great discussion on First Take about this when they were at the NBA draft, and it was Stephen A. They brought on T-Mac, Tracy McGrady, Gilbert Arenas, and Jay Williams. And Gilbert Arenas made a great point that around 2003, there was an argument between Kobe and T-Mac on who was the better player. 2003, Kobe had 3 rings. T-Mac had none, and T-Mac would never have one. So
he would never win a playoff series.
Exactly. And obviously injuries played a big part of his latter years when he got to the Houston Rockets. But right around that time, he was with the Orlando Magic, and there was an argument between who was better. And a lot of that had to do with stats and all-star selections and all-NBA. And a lot of the obviously those 3 rings that Kobe got were with Shaq. And Shaq was the guy. And it wasn't until Kobe got his 2 later with Pau Gasol and that crew that we started to talk about his, all-time ranking compared to Jordan. So which side are you on with this? Do you look at championships as a prerequisite to being an all-time great?
It's a contributor for sure. However, there are kind of exceptions though. If you are a playoff riser though, or just you just don't fall off in the playoffs, like you're a productive regular season player, still a productive playoff performer, and but you just don't win that many rings. Like that's why. I mean, this is all pointing at the Jordan versus LeBron GOAT debate.
Yeah.
And anyone who just says the rings is the deciding factor, I mean, it's just lunacy. I mean, LeBron doesn't, other than the Maverick series, the Heat Maverick series. I mean, yes, LeBron would play terrible that series, but I mean, LeBron just like carried teams to the finals, and he would perform. 07. You could argue like the 2015 because Kyrie and Love were both out, and 2018 whenever it was that famous promotional pick for the finals with KD, Steph, and Clay, and then LeBron, Tristan Thompson, and Kyle Korver on the poster. So, but then you look at LeBron's stats. I mean, he put up that 50-point game in the finals. I mean, he still played exceptionally well. And you got to look at like LeBron owning. I'm not saying who the GOAT is right now. I'm just saying like why the rings thing isn't shouldn't be the deciding factor. I mean, LeBron owned 14 other teams in his conference for an entire decade. I mean, he made how many? He made 8 or 9 straight NBA finals.
Yeah, he basically owned the whole 2010s decade.
And like people claim, oh, it's because the East was so bad. Well, that kind of happened. Look at Brady. I mean, Brady was the reason the AFC East was always so. When Brady won the AFC East all those years, all those teams are bad. That's because they were all risking and trying to do something to beat this guy, but they just kept on failing and failing. I mean, it was all geared toward beating this guy. That's kind of how the East was. So it's yeah, sure, it was weak, but it's kind of because of LeBron's greatness. That's kind of how. I mean, that's honestly how Jordan was too. I mean, like teams did whatever they could to try to beat him, but I mean, Jordan was just too good. But I mean, and you can argue going back to the owning the East for 8 or 9 years, like it's you could argue that Jordan could have done that if he hadn't retired due to gambling. But and I could easily see him doing that. So and then Jordan would obviously get the edge. But yeah, there's just so many other things to look at. But I do think playoff faller that easily goes against players. Obviously, in baseball, it's different because if you have a small sample size like Mike Trout, that's different. But like basketball, like James Harden's a perfect example. You look at his regular season numbers, you could argue he's one of the greatest of all time. You look at his playoff drop off, and yeah, and honestly, Tracy McGrady too. I mean, yeah, injuries played a part in it, but when you never win a playoff series, that that is held against you because I don't care. Championships are so many things have to go right for you to win a title. If you never won a playoff series, that is a red flag. I don't.
But isn't that more on the front office on roster building?
That's a part of it, yes, because basketball's a team game, obviously. But rings are a contributor. I will say that. I think rings are more contributor than you were giving it credit for, but it's not the end all be all by any means. Else, Bill Russell's the GOAT. Robert Horry's better than Jordan and LeBron. Kareem and Magic and all those Lakers guys are better than LeBron. And yeah, you just don't see many people making that case. So yeah, you can have the debate is like 4 and 6 better or worse than 6 and 0. that's the ring debate. But I mean, you got to look at stats too, and like longevity. That's
Yeah,
like you were saying.
yeah, and I know people make a big deal about a weak Eastern Conference during LeBron's tenure, but look at some of the teams that he played against. Derrick Rose, prime Derrick Rose with the Chicago Bulls, and that team that had Joakim Noah, Carlos Boozer, and they added Jimmy Butler towards the end of that stint with Rose. But he was an unstoppable force, and you know they at one point, C.J. Watson was interviewed. He was a former guard in the league that said that players would pretend to be sick to play, so they wouldn't have to, go up against prime D Rose. So that's one. You had the Indiana Pacers during the Paul George era when they were looked at as maybe possibly one of the greatest defenses of all time, and that's the type of a team that LeBron had to face in the Eastern Conference Finals for 2 or 3 straight years. And you're talking about a couple teams in the Atlanta Hawks, the Boston Celtics, who at different times had 4 All-Stars make it the same year. I mean, Boston had Rondo and Pierce and Garnett and Allen. So I think sometimes the East is looked at as really weak during LeBron's tenure because LeBron dominated the East, and I think that kind of shows how great he was during that time. Um, when I compared, the Kobe and T-Mac, how about one that was more our era when we watched LeBron and KD? There was an argument that KD could be the best player in the league at one point. There was that argument. That has done past, and LeBron was basically crowned, but for the reason that he has more rings than KD is a lot of what that had to do with, that argument, and KD obviously joining Golden State to get his. So there's also the argument of some rings aren't created equal, right? Obviously, we mentioned Robert Horry before, and then obviously LeBron playing in the era that he did compared to the teams that Michael Jordan played against, and also the style of play in the 90s compared to the 2010s where zone defense was banned during the time when Michael Jordan was playing. So it was straight up man for pretty much his whole career. And Jordan's even quoted as saying that if there was zone, he might have not have had as much success as he did during that stretch in the 90s. So I think it is hard to compare players anyway, basically because when you group an all-time list together, you've got guards, wings, and centers. So that's like off the jump, you're comparing different roles within a team. So if you just took one position, let's take power forwards. And after Tim Duncan, arguably the next 2 greatest power forwards are Karl Malone and Charles Barkley, and neither have a ring. So there's definitely great players who never won rings, and you find them all the time on all-time lists. Really,
Dan Marino for football.
Right,
Like that.
exactly. So the main issue really with evaluating players based off rings is that not everybody gets put in the same situation when they're drafted. And even when you're comparing players who have rings, not all championships are created equal. Some guys like Magic, they get placed alongside the greatest center in the game at that point in a well-built roster, and obviously he wins a championship his rookie year. Others like LeBron, you can even throw MJ into the mix, get put into a dysfunctional organization with a less than mediocre roster, and are asked to basically pull them out of lottery purgatory. So how do we evaluate a championship ring that Jordan got with a team that he was drafted on only after Scottie Pippen grew into himself and they hired Phil Jackson to be head coach, and compare it to players like LeBron or KD who jumped ship to chase titles on more established teams? So that's it. It's so hard.
Was it Arenas or someone else who said something about how no one respects rings like if you were a side piece?
Right. I think that was during the Kobe discussion of
Yeah,
him being with Shaq.
which is why that Tracy McGrady versus Kobe discussion happened. But I mean that's true, and fans of some established players try to forget that, like people claiming like Kobe's the greatest of all time. They point to the 5 is better than 4. Look at LeBron. Well,
Right.
if you watched any of, I mean, yeah, Kobe wasn't. Kobe was good, but he wasn't the best player on those 3 rings because the great Shaquille O'Neal was. Same with Curry. Curry's a top 10 player of all time, but his hardcore fan base is kind of written off. Like they're almost pretending like Durant didn't even exist
Right.
when they're talking. Whenever, I mean, he was a two-time Finals MVP and was definitely their best player for those 2 rings.
Right.
So, I think that's a rule that needs to be established more by people when discussing like where do guys rank. Like if you're going to say rings, yeah, obviously this Jordan and LeBron are above everyone else when it comes to this conversation because
And
those two are the best players in all their rings. But
right.
then you look at the next tier of guys like your Kobe's, your Curry's. I'll even say Kareem because later in his career you could say Magic was their best player, and Magic, frankly, because then for earlier part of his career, Kareem was the best player. So,
Yep.
I mean, this is a conversation that could go on for hours, especially if you involve more people in it, and if you got people with different perspectives and just had this long conversation, it could go on for hours. Probably fist fights might get involved too, but.
And why is it so prevalent in the NBA? Why in the sport of basketball is this? Rings seem to hold a lot more importance because we group Tom Brady and Peyton Manning in the same. That we look at them on the same tier as equals, and Brady's got 5 more championships than Manning does. I mean, a lot of this is self-induced by LeBron because he basically brought this on himself by chasing rings and trying to chase Jordan. I mean, it was well documented. Like this was what a lot of this was about, and now he's the one complaining about it, though.
Oh, the answer is because the game's evolved, and then almost all sports evolve. But for some reason, in basketball, the older fans can't accept the game's evolved, and they claim pure nostalgia for like it's who they watch. They watched Jordan growing up. They saw Jordan dominate the league, and then they can't stand any like they can't accept like the game's changed, and that also makes like our generation who didn't watch Jordan, that makes us discredit him, even though we never really watched him. Like we've just been watching the current NBA. It's all like, and then you see guys like Shaq and Charles on inside the NBA just diss on today's NBA and like guys wouldn't survive. And I mean that's bad for basketball in my opinion. But that's a different conversation. But yeah, it's all about the fan base. Like you don't see any older fans claiming that Montana is better than Brady anymore. No. Yeah, you don't. But NBA, like you don't see any. There's a few maybe, but hardly any like guys who watched a lot of 80s, 90s basketball claim that LeBron's the best because that's just not their era. So yeah, it's just been something strange about basketball. And I mean, the game definitely has changed a lot. So I understand why like older fans don't appreciate or don't enjoy today's game as much because it's not what they used to watch. But
yeah, just seeing more of these alerts come in. Free agent center Luka Garza agreed to a 2-year. I didn't even know he was still in the league. Honestly.
Where'd he go? He wasn't with Timberwolves.
With the Boston Celtics. So
okay, Brook Lopez actually moving to the Los Angeles Clippers. That's actually kind of big news because Brook Lopez was huge on that 2021 Bucks title team, and he's honestly been a good defensive presence down low, and he can hit a 3. So a good pickup for the Clippers. He is getting old though. But
yeah, the shot should stay though.
That also is interesting for Giannis purposes too, because that's a guy who's been there for a few years and now he's gone. So,
right, we'll see. Right. Before we continue on, do want to let you guys know if you're listening on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn that bell icon on so you don't miss any of our content. If you're listening on Spotify, go ahead and follow us and give us a rating and a review. We'd much appreciate it. And if you do want to go ahead and follow us on Instagram at HuddleKL Sports, you can see some of our content on there in short snippets, as well as any breaking news in the sports world. This is going to be fun. So we've got a couple, we're putting on our big boy pants, and we're going to get to be in the commissioner's chair for a couple different leagues here. I'll actually start with you if that's fine, because just flow in from NBA talk. Logan is going to be commissioner for a day in the NBA, the changes he's going to make, and then I'm going to do commissioner for a day as the Major League Baseball commissioner, and the radical changes I'm going to make to increase TV viewership. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'll let you take it away and just do as much damage as you can to this league. I feel like you're taking over a much more fragile league and a bigger mess than I am, but we'll see what you can do with it. Go ahead.
So for time constraints, I didn't list every possible thing I could think of. And feel free to chime in, disagree, agree with me at any point, because there might be some really outlandish takes here.
I'm ready for it.
Okay, to start. So the NBA currently plays an 82-game season. I would reduce that to 66. Now, that was the same amount of games as the lockout year. If you recall, that was back in
2011-12, yeah.
2011-12 season. So we have talked about in the past that there is just the NBA has a rivalry problem. NFL, name a rivalry. Bears-Packers. Bears-Packers. Cowboys-Eagles. MLB, name a rivalry.
Yankees-Red Sox. Padres-Dodgers. That has heated up big time.
And what do both those rivalries have in common? They're divisional matchups. NBA divisions have been made irrelevant. The only thing divisions mean anymore, the only thing that they do is that they guarantee you play that team 4 times a year. And then the rest of the East, you either play 4 or 3 times. It rotates each year. The division teams just play 4 times a year. So I am changing this from 82 to 66 games. You play 4 divisional games like normal, and you play 2 games against the West, but I'm changing it for the rest of the East. You only play those teams twice, just like the West. I'm talking strictly for an Eastern Conference team. I forgot to say that. Like, I'm thinking of the Celtics or the Heat or the Pacers perspective. So why I do this brings back rivalries. Like I said, you play a division team 4 times more than anybody else. I'm going to read these off to you. So NFL, they play 6 divisional games a year. That's 35% of a team's games are divisional games. MLB, it's 32.1% of the team's total games in a year are divisional games. Current NBA is 19.5%. To me, that's a big contributor. That's a contributor to why there's no rivalries. There's not much bad blood between these close teams.
Everybody's too friendly.
Everybody's too friendly. There needs to be some more blood boiling. Now, this would only increase it to 24.2%, but it's better than 19%. So I do like that. You can also spread out games more. I'm not calling for the NBA to change when they start the year. I think it's good where it starts, right around Halloween, ends first or second week of April, because you don't want to run the playoffs during March Madness. That's good.
Yeah.
Keep All-Star Weekend the way it is. I mean, we could go a whole segment of how to change that. I think it's a lost cause at this point, so just keep it the way it is. But no back-to-backs. 2 to 3 game break in between each game. You can have less games on each day, so potentially more TV viewership for the few games that are on each day. And I think it'll help also reduce load management. Less games, more to play for. With that amount of with the less amount of games to 82. 66 is 16 less than 82, and what isn't it like 65's the how much you have to play to be like
eligible for
eligible for
awards.
awards.
Yeah.
So yeah, just put that number at 66. That kind of puts it right there. So yeah, that's my big seasonal difference.
I like it.
When it comes to the playoffs, well, I think we've talked about this before, but definitely change the first round of best of 5. There's just no reason to watch 1 seeds beat up an 8 seed 4 times. I actually have a semi-hot take. I think keep the play in. I think you should keep it. I think it gives teams more to play for at the end of the year. When you don't want too many teams tanking at the end of the year. So if there's a couple teams still vying for a spot, I think that helps the league a little bit. Are the play-in games fun? Not really, but it prevents less teams from tanking, in my opinion. And then going on with that, this also makes divisions key. Division winner, automatic top three seed for division winners. So when you're playing more division games, I think now it's like the NFL. Winning the division's an achievement. You should be rewarded for that. So I think, the top 3 seeds for each conference should be division winners. And then the 4th seed is the best wild card's the wrong word. The best second place team also gets home court advantage for that first round. And it just once again goes back to the rivalries thing. That means you hate your division opponents more. You got to beat them to earn that top 3 seed. And I go look at the NFL's formula for that. So
I love when leagues like section off the competition within divisions, and the way that MLB and NFL have done that for decades. I love when divisions matter. So yeah, definitely love that the automatic. Yeah, love that.
Okay, now I trimmed some of this down because there's just so much, but I'm not. It's easy to sit here and criticize officials, but to be frank, their job is hard. Like there's just the NBA game is so fast paced, so physical. It's hard to get every call right. But I'm going to put some rule changes in here, mostly to benefit the defense. But I do have one here that helps the offense more. So defense, this was I think this was like 2002 when they first implemented this, and I still don't like it. No more defensive 3-second violations. So the argument is that people are going to say, well, if defenses are more in the paint, the NBA already has a 3-point shooting problem where too many teams shoot threes. So if they're in the paint, they're going to shoot more threes. And I say, actually, I don't think that's the case. A lot of those threes are because the defense isn't in position in the paint yet. So when someone drives into the lane and the defense has to go guard him, that leaves the 3-point shooter wide open. You kick out, hit a 3. I think getting rid of the defense at 3 seconds means the defenses are going to A, protect the paint, and B, more protect the 3-point line. So I think it'll be less 3-point shots. It'll force guys to develop a mid-range, which I think is really it's kind of fun to watch, honestly, a mid-range jumper. If guys can get that, I'm thinking Kawhi. Kawhi Leonard was so good at that in the late 2010s. Like he could get to, and SGA now is pretty good at that too. But yeah, that's the only league I think that does it. I don't know about the Euro leagues and stuff, but high school and college obviously don't do that.
Right.
I also think the NBA lately has done a horrible job developing big men. The best big men are now all shooting threes, minus, Jokic shoots threes too, but
Wemby is 7'3", 7'4", and he's out shooting 9 threes a game.
Yeah. Miles Turner's a perfect example of this. Early in his career, he was a perfect post player. Like, he was a great post player, but now he couldn't back down. Like, the Thunder's 6'8" defenders, he'd step out of bounds, and NBA's just done a horrible job developing big guys. Like, it's all
the league needs a Akeem Olajuwon camp where all the big men go to work on post
But I
footwork.
think but if defenses are more concentrated in the paint, that's going to have to make the offense develop post play again. And honestly, I think that's fun to watch. So
Yeah.
that's another aspect that's fun to watch. What else did I say? Okay, so this is just more of an emphasis, but going into this year that I'm commissioner, focus more on the offensive players initiating contact rather than calling automatic fouls on defense. Um, a lot of times, defensive guys are in position, and you see an offensive guy initiate the contact, causing the defender to kind of have to change position, leading to a foul. I mean, you can't make a rule change, but you can make an emphasis to the officials. Yeah, like maybe pay more attention to that. This includes push-offs, obviously, but honestly, guys just getting in the paint, defenders square straight up, and then offensive guy kind of gets into him and goes up.
Right. So are you saying call that on the offense or no call?
No, more no call. More no call. Push-offs need to get called. I think they need to bring that call back. I don't know. They've swallowed their whistle just everywhere in the NBA on that call. Actually, they've kind of done that for a while because you could argue Jordan got away with that. His game winner against the Jazz.
1998.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, got two more benefiting the defense. This is the worst rule in basketball because I don't see any reason why this rule exists unless you can tell me. And this is in college too, because high school doesn't normally have a shot clock. Why does the shot clock reset after a kicked ball violation? There is no scenario where the offense did something good when the play ends up as a kicked ball violation. So why does the shot clock reset? I understand why they take it out of bounds. Obviously, if there's a kickball, stop play, offense gets the ball back. That's fine. Why do you bail out the offense by resetting the shot clock? I mean, I've never heard anyone talk about that, but I've never heard anyone explain why that's the rule. Like sometimes you see, oh, they got bailed out there by that kickball. Why is that a rule?
Right.
Like how does that nothing the offense did made them deserve to get a shot clock reset.
Yeah.
They made a bad pass. They made a bad pass, or the defender made a good play to stop the possession. Yeah. Why did he get rewarded for that? Okay. Now this is my very controversial one. I've always kind of been against this rule, and a lot of people are for it. But this year just put me over the top. Like, yeah, we just gotta do something about this. I am completely for now just getting rid of continuation fouls until they do something. They don't know how to call it. Back in the 2010s, I remember watching like LeBron's Heat, and like guys would get fouled at the 3-point line, take 2 dribbles, do a layup. They call it a shooting foul and one. I'm like, man, I don't like that. I slightly understand why, because the defender may have prevented a layup by fouling, but I don't like it. That's just too far away from the basket. You never know if you would have kicked it out instead of shooting a layup.
It's supposed to be on their gather, right? If they pick up the ball in their dribble and they're getting fouled, then that's whenever.
That's what they say. And then but then this playoffs, I've seen guys not even attempting a shoot, and they're calling.
There were a couple really bad ones. I know exactly what you're talking about.
There are some horrible ones. Guys aren't even shooting. They're in the paint, dribbling towards the basket. They get fouled. They take another dribble and fall down or something. Clear foul, take it out of bounds, or shoot 2 free throws if you're in the bonus. No scenario where that's a shooting foul. That happened multiple times this playoffs. That's why I think this rule's gotten so out of control. They just need to get rid of it. I'm not saying this is permanent. I just think they should experiment with getting rid of it and see if it improves things. I know college is kind of moving towards implementing this, and I don't like that because it honestly just adds more on the officials' plate, makes the game seem more controversial because it's called too inconsistent. That's why I just say don't call it at all. It's too inconsistent right now until you can come up with a better rule to get it. So just a couple more things. Well, I just got 2 more things. One, my rule change to benefit the offense. Get rid of no more off-ball charges. So when I say this is more about like when you see a replay and like away from the ball, you see a guy just making a cut, and then a defender stands in front of him and falls over, and they call an offensive foul. Okay, that's not defense, and that's not. No one's out of control. He's just try. You're allowed to move, especially without the ball. You're allowed to move in basketball.
Yeah.
You should not. Yeah, there's no. That makes me mad when I see that, especially. So I'm all for moving screens. They should be called more often because I feel like so many moving screens get uncalled. But like when a guy screens and then he's done screening and turns and like tries to cut and then he runs into a guy and he falls over.
Yeah.
That's not a foul. The screener is allowed to move after he's screened. Like he has personal space. He's not trying to foul you. He's just trying to move.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think
agree.
they should just not. They should either call it a flop warning or just call nothing, or maybe even call a defensive foul because like he was in the offensive guy's space.
Right.
But in no scenario should that be an offensive foul, in my opinion, unless he throws an elbow or something. Okay, my last take, and this is a flaming hot one. And yeah, so I'm not very old. I'm only 25, but this is a huge boomer take. Like this is something like older fans would say, and this is all about improving the league. This is about getting more people to watch it, all that. NBA uniforms should go back to just one home, one away, and one alternate. So I do not want to. When I turn on TV and I see the Memphis Grizzlies wearing red uniforms and the Milwaukee Bucks wearing blue uniforms, or the Spurs wearing teal uniforms, or the Heat wearing those Miami Vice uniforms, they may look good. That's not your team colors. Like it's amazing. Like you turn on a game and like you'll see these like before looking at the scoreboard. Let's talk about regular season game, and you see these two teams running up down the court. Like, wait, who's the home? Who's the away? Who are these teams? And then you're like, what?
Even in the finals, like the Thunder wore their blue uniforms at home plenty of times. And
so I do have something to say about that. One home, one away, one alternate. I hate when the away team wears white.
Yeah.
That makes no sense to me. I don't mind when both teams wear away uniforms as long as they're contrasting. Like, I didn't mind the Thunder wearing their blue at home. Like, I don't mind that. I just think, the away team should never wear white. The away team should always wear their alternate, which shouldn't be anything crazy. It should just be like the reverse of your colors, like think of an example. If you're the Lakers, the Lakers, you got a yellow jersey and you got a purple jersey and a white jersey.
Get rid of the black one.
unless you like get rid of like one of the purple or yellow, and make it black. Like black can almost work for any team, but yeah, it bothers me. I'm glad they make it more strict in the playoffs, where you kind of have to wear your main jersey,
base uniforms.
Your base uniforms. I like that. It should be like that in the regular season. Since Nike's taken over, it's gotten way out of control. Half the time, I don't know who I'm watching. Right. Why are you wearing colors that aren't even in your logo, and they're not even throwback uniforms? What is going on?
Right.
I'm especially for people my age, I'm well in the minority on this position, but I would do this if I was the commissioner. You can say whatever you want. But
yeah, no, I actually agree with you because there's just so many. It's like, I like things to be very, I guess, it's very strict. I feel like baseball uniforms I know they've incorporated the City Connect kind of in the same way that basketball has their city uniforms or whatnot.
And I'm fine for jersey redesigns, like for your alternate every year if you change it. Like I said, I want it to be your colors, but be creative. Yeah, do something cool with those colors each year for. And other things like the Nets when they wear, I guess it's a throwback uniform. It's the red and the blue, and they play like the 76ers, who are also red and blue, but they're wearing white. Like when teams wear the other color of the team they're playing, like, oh, I just want to turn the TV off. It's so stupid. Like,
I love it. I love it. Well, you did quite the damage in your
I
one
did.
day as NBA commissioner. I think the league will be better for it, and any mess won't be your problem because it'll be the next guy's problem. I love
Yep.
it. At the same time, I am taking over for a day in the MLB commissioner's office. Before I say what I'm going to change, do I believe that MLB should do these things that I'm about to propose? Not necessarily. I still believe that baseball is built on the in-person experience. There's nothing like going to the ballpark, getting a beer and a hot dog, sitting down to watch a baseball game in the middle of summer. That's like
American tradition.
most
Yeah.
American you can get. That experience should always be at the forefront of what baseball is built on and what brings new fans to the sport. And the grind of the 162 is what makes it endearing, and that the team that takes home the trophy was able to survive a grueling season and win the war of attrition. However, if Major League Baseball wanted to try something to increase the TV viewership to better not achieve the NFL, but at least close the gap between it and the NFL, just put me in the chair. Let's shake things up and make some big changes. So let's start with the regular season. I'll do most of my damage here. So the schedule right now, one of 162 does not matter. I miss plenty of my St. Louis Cardinals games. It's no big deal. I'll catch the next one. I'll catch the next series. I'll catch a game next month. Like one of 162 does not matter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shave off a third of the games on the schedule. We're going to basically take 2 months off of the schedule. We're going to go down to 108 games.
How long has it been 162? I honestly
It's
don't
been a
know.
while. If you look back, I mean, even in like the 1930s, 1920s, like I'm pretty sure they were at least right around that number. I don't know if it was always consistent, but it's been 162 for a long, long
Yeah.
time.
Well,
So baseball,
World Wars, and Great Depressions happened back then. So yeah, I don't blame them for
right,
maybe not.
right. Baseball purists are gonna just hate me for this, but they'll get over it. So we're gonna shave it down to 108. So the question would then be, okay, if you're going to shorten the season, what about season and career stats? How are players supposed to be able to chase those 60 home run seasons and whatnot? So the average plate appearance
Allow
for
steroids.
allow steroids, I love that. The average plate appearance per game for an individual player is right around four plate appearances. So on a per 162 game basis, if they were to play all the games, that's an average of about 648 plate appearances. That's just an average. So how do we close that number with a 108 game schedule? Just like we shaved off a third of the games of the schedule, we're going to shave off a third of the lineup card. So we're going to go from a 9-man batting order to a 6-man batting order. So what this is going to help on multiple fronts. Baseball struggles with the fact that star players are only seen and are really only able to make a big impact on games for about 15 minutes, 20 minutes. That's about the amount of time that you see a Shohei Ohtani get to make an impact on the game if he's not pitching in a 3+ hour game. It's about 15, 20 minutes. This will give players an average of 6 plate appearances per game, more time seeing the stars, and more opportunities for them to make an impact. We always talk about in football, if Patrick Mahomes gets an opportunity to drive the ball down the field at the end of the game, he's going to do it, and he's going to be able to make an impact on the game. Obviously, a basketball player has so many opportunities at the end of games to make impact. This will give guys like Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, all the big stars of the game, more opportunities within the game, more opportunities to really make it important to have star players on your roster. So put this in. What is 6 plate appearances per game on a per 108 game basis? What is that going to do? 6 times 108.
That would be 648. Right?
648 plate appearances. That gets us right there at the same average of a 162 game schedule with 4 plate appearances per game. And you may ask, what about the 3 position players that won't get that lineup spot anymore? Those 3 guys that were taken off the lineup card. Well, now that makes it a lot more interesting for teams to strategize with their roster spots, even more by getting players who are defensive specialists. We get those Ozzie Smiths back into the game. We get those absolute cannons in the outfield, those vacuums in the infield. So obviously they won't be needed in the lineup, but they can always continue to improve their bat and make their way into the lineup. And being one of those 6 guys becomes like that much more special for baseball players. And since we're taking off 54 games of a schedule, which is 27 home games for these owners that are, shaking in their boots hearing me talk about this, like any of them are listening, but that's a lot of money being lost. Those 27 home games, those 2 months worth of home games that they're losing financially. These 3 players, these guys that you don't have to pay because they're not going to be in your lineup, you're just paying them for their defense. So that shortens the salary of the team. This would also affect pitching staffs as well. So with 108 games being played over 6 months, I'm still going to keep that time frame of the late March to end of September. Games are going to be spread out over that time. So we're not going to be playing every single day anymore. But it also means that you don't even have to have a 5 or 6 man starting rotation. Those top guys, those Garrett Coles, those Paul Skeens are going to be able to pitch more frequently because we aren't playing every single day. They're going to get those off days in between because we're just going to have more off days. And so you could realistically have a 3-man rotation with this new format. For owners, this makes it a lot better for them as well because obviously, like I said, less batters in lineup and less starting pitchers to have to pay. Now you're paying actually just more bullpen arms, which are a lot cheaper than starting pitchers. So salary expenses would become less, which would start to even that thing out. And on the topic of salaries, can we finally institute a salary cap? It's ridiculous. No more of these 15 years, $765 million contracts where Juan Soto is going to be damn near 40 when the Mets stop paying him. They're ridiculous. Players get paid 10-year contracts when they're 30 years old. Pretty sure that the Los Angeles Angels did that with Albert Pujols, and look how that turned out. Paying way too much money for guys that make a minimal impact, right? Because they're getting 4 at-bats a game. With this new setup, they're getting more. But let's make it a salary cap so that will help owners with the expenses. Because, again, like they're losing those 27 home games. We need to offset the money here. So, yeah, this would help the loss of revenue from the 27 home games start to create a level playing field among the 30 teams in the league. We've seen what the NBA has been able to do with their league-wide parity. We've had 7 champions in 7 years, 7 different champions in 7 years. We could start to see that as well in MLB and not have these behemoths like the Los Angeles Dodgers and New York Yankees and New York Mets eating up all the star players in this league. Let's bring on more event games and keep them consistent and make them almost traditional for every season. We know society's very distracted these days, and the NFL does a great job of making each week feel really big. People are drawn to things that feel big. And with the NFL, it's the scarcity of games every week, just feeling like an event, everyone meeting up, grilling out, watching NFL Sunday Ticket or NFL Red Zone. It's great. So the games like the Tokyo games, the London, the Mexico City, and any other country hosting these series is great for the league. It's a really cool way to spread the popularity of the sport. That needs to continue and be very consistent. We've only had the Tokyo series this year. I think last year we had a couple of different countries host games. It just hasn't been that consistent year over year. And we need to have the Field of Dreams game happen every single year. It's just a beautiful atmosphere out there. It just love the movie, and having that be a staple of the regular season would be really cool. Make it big, make it an event. You got to have that in the MLB season. All right. Finally, the playoffs. And I would actually say keep the format of the six-man batting rotation into the 6-man batting lineup into the playoffs. Keep that. It would make the playoff games even more interesting. But baseball keeps creeping towards a 16-team playoff that the NBA currently has. And I hate that so many teams make it into the NBA playoffs. There's no reason more than half the league should make the playoffs. Baseball has currently a 12-team bracket, which has 3 wild card teams, and the worst division winner playing in a 3-game series in the wild card round against the worst wild card team, so the third place wild card spot. I don't like the idea of a division winner having their season come down to a 3-game set, especially in this sport, which has a lot of variance. And the more games you have in a series, the better, and the more likely you are to have the best team come out on top. So a 3-game set after winning your division is just kind of puts the whole season on ice in a 3-game set, and I don't like that. So we're dropping this to a 10-team total in the playoffs. I like kind of just the hard stop at a third of the league making the playoffs. It just makes the most sense, and it would allow for all 6 division winners to play their first series in the divisional round in that 5-game series. So that just like makes it to where all those wild card teams play in that first round, and they funnel into the rest of the playoffs. And like I said, I don't want, if you're the Chicago Cubs and you win the division, but you're the worst out of the 3, and you have to play, I don't know, the St. Louis Cardinals if they're the worst wild card spot in a 3-game set, that is very dangerous, and it's just not conducive for a good playoff. So those are my big changes. My the big thing being going down to 108 games makes it much more. Teams need to be on high alert to get them wins. So, what do you think?
Yeah, that first proposal was absolutely radical. I'm not going to lie. Yeah, there would be a lot of angry old men if that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I understand why you said, "Would you do these things?" Because this would be so drastic. What you just would be so drastic for the look. Like what I said, not like any of it was. I mean, I obviously shortened the season, but it was shortened 15 years ago. And I'm just bringing back the importance of divisions. What you're saying would change like how the league goes. I'm not 100% against it. I'm not going to say I'm 100% for it. I'm not 100%. I understand your logic, and I just that I get what you're saying about you have to do this, I guess, but the man, that 9-man rotation, that 9-man batting lineup, it's I don't know, changing
it's been
it to
a
6.
Staple of the game for over 100 years, right?
Changing it to 6. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it just comes down to your. I mean, yeah, you want to see the stars, but sometimes when your worst hitter comes through in the clutch out of nowhere, right? That can be fun to watch too. So I don't know. This was a fun. These are 2 fun topics.
Yeah, it was fun just putting them together, and seeing what we could come up with. It was a lot of fun. So that'll wrap things up here at the K&L Sports Huddle. We'll be back next week, like we said, with our first division and our NFL division preview. The AFC East should be a lot of fun as we get started on this, and it should flow right into the regular season. Once we're finished up, we'll get all our Super Bowl picks in at the end of this thing, and we'll see how the season plays out. That'll be it for us here. I'm Kage Kiplinger. That's Logan Hubert. See y'all next week.